Did Pontius Pilate write a report to the Roman Emperor Tiberius about Jesus, including details about his miracles, trial, crucifixion, and resurrection? And could this report contain more amazing details than what's in the Gospels? That's the question we'll explore today. There is a document known as the Acts of Pilate, which first appeared in an apocryphal book called the Acts of Peter and Paul, believed to be written in the 1st century. Later, it was included in the Gospel of Nicodemus, a 4th century apocryphal text. But is this report genuine, slightly embellished by Christians, or completely made up? Scholars have different opinions. Some ancient writers believe Pilate did send a report. It makes sense because Pilate, in the report, mentions that Herod Antipas was speaking poorly of him to Caesar. Pilate may have wanted to defend himself before the emperor, which is a logical reason to write such a report. And if someone were making up a report, would they include a detail like this? Probably not. In AD 138, early church father Justin Martyr wrote to the Roman Emperor Antoninus Pius and referred to Pilate's report. This shows that the report was well known around AD 150 and likely kept in Rome's imperial archives for the emperor to read. Here's a part of what Justin Martyr wrote. After he was crucified, those who crucified him cast lots for his garments and divided them among themselves. Another church father, Tertullian, even said that Tiberius Caesar wanted to add Jesus to the Roman pantheon of gods because of Pilate's report. Whether or not this is true, we can't be sure, as there is no official record of it in the Roman archives. However, it does show that early Christians valued the Acts of Pilate highly. Interestingly, even those who opposed Christianity saw its importance. Pontius Pilate's letter to Emperor Tiberius is an important historical piece, shedding light on the events around Jesus' crucifixion. Its significance is highlighted by the fact that in AD 311, Emperor Maximin created a fake version of these acts to weaken the influence of Christianity. This shows just how impactful the original Acts of Pilate were in the Roman Empire. In this series, we will explore this document, analyze Pilate's words, and provide insights into this key moment in history. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Let's begin with the opening lines of Pilate's letter to Emperor Tiberius. Pontius Pilate to the Emperor Tiberius, greetings. Recent events in my province have been so extraordinary that I felt compelled to report them. These events may even change the fate of our nation. It seems lately that the gods have not been favorable. I almost regret the day I succeeded Valerius Gratus as governor of Judea. Of all conquered cities, Jerusalem has been the hardest to govern. The people are so rebellious that I constantly feared an uprising. To deal with this, I only had a single centurion and a small group of soldiers. I asked for reinforcements from the prefect of Syria, but he told me he barely had enough troops to defend his own province. This constant thirst for conquest, expanding the empire beyond our ability to protect it, may ultimately bring about the fall of our great empire. These were the words of Pontius Pilate. Think about the weight of this statement. Pilate reveals that the defense of Jerusalem relied on just one centurion, who would typically command only about 100 soldiers. Valerius Gratus, who was governor of Judea before Pontius Pilate, struggled with the challenges of ruling Jerusalem. He found the people there particularly difficult to manage. This sets the stage for Pilate's account of the tough situation he took over. Pilate explains how few military resources he had to keep the peace in Jerusalem. Despite the potential for trouble, he only had one centurion and a small group of soldiers. This lack of troops made it hard for the Romans to maintain control and prevent uprisings. Pilate also mentions a larger issue. The Roman Empire was expanding so much that it was hard to defend all its territories. This stretched their resources thin and made the situation even more unstable. Pilate's worries about this overexpansion and lack of soldiers played a big part in how he made decisions, including during the trial and crucifixion of Jesus. As we explore this further, we'll see how the lack of military strength influenced Pilate's choice to order Jesus' crucifixion. Let's return to Pilate's words. Among the rumors I heard, one especially caught my attention. It was said that a young man had appeared in Galilee preaching a new law in the name of the gods who sent him. At first, I was worried he would lead the people against the Romans, but my fears soon went away. Jesus of Nazareth spoke more like a friend of the Romans than the Jews. One day, passing by the place of Silo, I saw a large crowd. In the middle, a young man was leaning against a tree, speaking calmly to the people. I was told it was Jesus. I could have guessed, as he looked so different from the crowd. His golden hair and beard gave him a heavenly look. He seemed about 30 years old. I had never seen such a peaceful and gentle face. He stood in sharp contrast to the dark-haired, darker-skinned people around him. Now, we should pause here because this might be the only historical description of Jesus' appearance. Pilate describes Jesus with blonde hair and a beard, which raises some questions. Could this detail have been added later by scribes copying the document? Or did Jesus really look like that compared to others at the time? My guess is it might have been added later, but we can't be sure. It's definitely something interesting to think about. Back to Pilate's account, not wanting to interrupt Jesus by my presence, I continued my walk, but asked my secretary, Manalus, to stay and listen. Manalus, whose family had deep ties in the region, spoke Hebrew fluently and was someone I trusted completely. Later, when I returned to the praetorium, Manalus told me what Jesus had said to the crowd at Silo. I had never heard any philosopher speak as wisely as Jesus. When one of the rebellious Jews asked him if it was lawful to pay taxes to Caesar, Jesus replied, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God." Because of the wisdom of this answer, I gave Jesus a lot of freedom. I could have had him arrested and exiled, but that wouldn't have been fair, and Roman justice was always known for being fair. Jesus wasn't a threat. He wasn't stirring up trouble. In fact, I protected him, even if he didn't know it. He was free to speak, gather followers, and teach without interference from my soldiers. But this freedom angered the wealthy and powerful Jews. Jesus often spoke out against them, which is why I thought it best to let him continue. He would say to the scribes and Pharisees, "You are a brood of vipers. You are like whitewashed tombs." He also criticized the rich for their public displays of charity, telling them that the poor widow's small offering is more valuable to God than all the wealth of the rich. Every day, I received new complaints about Jesus' boldness. I was even warned that something bad might happen to him, as Jerusalem had a history of stoning those who called themselves prophets. If I refused to act, the Jews would appeal to Caesar. However, the Senate supported my decision, and I was promised reinforcements after the Parthian War. But since I didn't have enough soldiers to stop an uprising, I decided to take a different approach, one that would bring peace to the city without compromising Roman authority. This shows that Pilate hesitated to crucify Jesus, choosing instead to hand him over to calm the political tension and prevent an uprising. If you've made it this far, thank you for sticking with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Acts of Pilate. Do you think it's real or not? Stay tuned for more. Bye.